So next, to remove the pilot bearing, I really like this 10mm socket that tapers down. It's worked several times for me. And what we're going to do is fill the pilot bearing full of grease, and then we're going to go ahead and stick this in. It fits perfectly. Then pound on the back of this old extension. You can see it's gotten its use. And by pushing in, it's going to use hydraulic pressure with that grease to push the bearing out. Okay, so next with a grease gun, you want to fill that whole entire center area full of grease, as much as you can. So next you're going to take that 10mm socket attached to the extension, and you're going to push it right into the back of that pilot bearing where all the grease is. And you're going to hit the back of that with a hammer. Some people say you can even stuff bread, and I've even used a wet rag and that kind of thing in there in the past. So as long as you have grease in there, we just shoved a paper towel kind of behind it. We're just going to be pounding it away. But you just want that grease farthest in there so that as you pound it, it's pushing the back of the pilot bearing. Okay, so we've just been pushing this in, removing the socket, adding more paper towels and grease, whatever we need to jam it in there. And the key with these is to just not use a small hammer. We're using a nice heavy weight, and that's really the key behind it. So go ahead and give it a nice hit. There, it's coming out. Keep going. Add more grease and paper. Okay, so as you pound this in far enough, the whole pilot bearing will come right out, and you're just left with the crankshaft.
Nothing. Looks good.
Nice and clean. So this is the huge wad of toilet paper and grease that we just kept shoving into the back of this pilot bearing. And so you just keep adding it and punching it in, and eventually it will force that bearing out. Okay, so this is all toilet paper and grease that we've shoved in there. It all will just go in behind it and push the bearing from the back. So here's our pilot bearing. I just took this out of the freezer. It's been in there for a while. It's frozen cold. That's going to help it slide in a little bit better. And to drive it in, we have this 26mm socket, and it fits perfectly on the edges of this. Because on this, you want to make sure you're putting pressure on this outer rim. You do not want to touch the actual bearing part of it right here. So a 26mm socket fits perfectly on this, so we're going to use that to drive it straight into the crankshaft. So you just want to line up that pilot bearing as square as you can, and just tap it in gently in the beginning so that you know that it's going straight. You don't want it to go in at an angle and get all messed up. Go ahead and just drive it in. Okay, right there. You can hear it and kind of feel it bottom out. When it's all said and done, there will be a small lip right here that you can feel it. So basically you just want to make sure that it's in there good and straight, and you know, you'll hear it as it's bottoming out against the crankshaft.